What if Santa's reindeer were college basketball All-Americans? Who would be guiding Santa's sleigh? Leif Thulin and I are getting in the Christmas spirit, and we got to figure out who is our Rudolph.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, joined by our guy, Leif Thulin, on Friday. Usually it's earlier in the week, but we're flipping things around for Christmas, the lead up to Christmas, I guess I should say, getting in that Christmas spirit. If you'd like to come hang out with us and chat college basketball, come join the Locked On College Basketball Discord, where we're talking college basketball all the time. Maybe you need an escape from your family this Christmas season. It's a great way to do it. The link for that is in the show notes. Hey, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. By the way, great news. If you're watching on YouTube, you see this information scrolling on the bottom line. We learned earlier this week that our show has been shortlisted for the Sports Podcast Awards in the Best Basketball Podcast category. And we're up against a whole bunch of NBA shows. There's no other college basketball representation. So folks, go vote for our show and let's rep for the college hoops junkies out there like Leif and myself. All right, here's how today's show is going to go. You know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. But folks, do you recall the most famous reindeer of all? His name is Rudolph. And today, all 9 of Santa's reindeers are morphing into our college basketball All-Americans here at the tail end of the non-conference part of the season. What's going to happen is Leif and I are going to give you our 9 leading All-American candidates. We're going to go 9 down to 1. Our Rudolph is going to be our National Player of the Year. And then we'll give you some honorable mentions who are currently in Santa's workshop waiting on Dasher to pull a hammy so they get called up to main sled duty. Now, Leif and I have not seen each other's picks. We haven't talked about it. I don't know who he's going to say. He doesn't know who I'm going to say. That's what makes this fun. Speaking of which, we'd love to hear who you would have as yours as well. Drop that in the show notes or in the comments section. You could come in the Discord chat and let us know there as well. So basically what's going to happen is we'll just work our way down. And if Leif names somebody I've got on my list, I'll say where he's at and vice versa. So we're going to start by letting Leif give us his number 9 player. And he's been waffling back and forth on his 9 and 10. So I'm interested to see who this pick is going to be. Leif, hit us with your number 9.
I think this might be a surprise. I actually just changed mine. So,
what? Okay,
well,
let's go.
It's who I wanted to put in. And then I did some statistical review, and a big name player who got off to a tremendous start, who's recently struggled, has been moved to the injury reserve and waiting for an injured hamstring, as you said. So I've got David Jones of Memphis as my number 9, as one of those reindeer leading Santa's sleigh.
I love it.
I'll give an argument for it.
Do it.
All right.
Bring it.
David Jones plays on a team in Memphis that is underranked. They're ranked 23rd in the country. The other day when they played Virginia, he was easily the best player on the court against what is one of the best defensive tandems in the country in Reese Beekman and Ryan Dunn.
That's right.
And David Jones led the way throughout. He averages 21 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, shoots 46% from the field, 39.7% from 3, so basically 40% from 3. And then when he's played good opponents, he's been very good. His last 3 games are as follows: Texas A&M, 29 points, and they win. Clemson, 22 points and a win. 26 points against Virginia. All 3 were ranked. They were played at different sites. I mean, the last one was at home, as was the one against Clemson, and against Texas A&M. They've traveled to College Station and beat them. And every single time he's shot free throws well, he's rebounded, gotten in passing lanes. Defensively, he's their best player. And he's someone that I think is going to lead Memphis to being a top 4 seed in March Madness.
Leif, I love this call. I'm right with you. I actually had David Jones 5th on my list. So I had him in my top group and so would have named him there. But yeah, I'm right with you. I said on Wednesday's show that Memphis' ceiling just keeps going up for me, especially as we look towards them getting Naquan Tomlin back. And when you got the best player on who's going to be, as you said, probably a top 4 seed come March, dude, this is awesome. And we've said it a lot. Andy and I have, but the American is no runaway for FAU. In fact, I think I might be leaning a little bit more towards Memphis now as the team to beat. What David Jones is doing is absolutely ridiculous. I love, as you said, that it's against such high-level competition as well. All right, Leif, here's my number 9, and this one's definitely off the radar and will not legitimately get an All-American nod, but I wanted to shout out the nation's leading scorer, Xavier Johnson from Southern Illinois. Homie's dropping 24.8 points a game, 49% from the field, 43.6 from 3 on 5.5 attempts a game. That is just stupid, Leif, not to mention, this is maybe even more bonkers, 89.7% from the free throw line on 8.7 attempts a game, dude. That is wacky. But also, you think of somebody like this that's the nation's leading scorer, and you're like, oh, he never passes the ball, right? Leif, this dude has 5.7 assists per game. He's just an absolute bucket, but he's also a great facilitator, and I love it. Not to mention 3.7 boards a game, and he's swiping 1.6 steals. Xavier Johnson from the Southern Illinois Salukis. Check this dude out, folks, if you haven't seen him yet.
The Salukis are a fun watch. I did not have him, but I was going through some stats last night, and he was at the top of a few categories, so at least he was present on my mind. I've got a guy that is not a surprise in terms of preseason All-American buzz, but based off his stats, people may think, I don't know, compared to where some other stats are. But if you look at impact, I would argue that no player in college basketball, bar maybe Zach Edey, which we haven't seen this happen, has a bigger impact when he's on the floor versus when he's off the floor. I'm going with Ryan Kalkbrenner.
Ooh, love it.
See, Ryan Kalkbrenner last year, I know that's not what we're talking about, but last year he got ill and Creighton lost 6 straight games. They were, or maybe it was 6 of 7 games, and they were a wholly different team. Then he comes back, and they were awesome. And that was the start of Big East play and after Maui, which they won last year. This year, Ryan Kalkbrenner sprains his ankle against Alabama, misses about 10 minutes, and Alabama claws their way back into the game in front. Kalkbrenner's like, man, I better come back in. Comes back in, and Creighton firmly is in front the rest of the way, and they win. He's a walking double-double. Sometimes he doesn't get it because they're up by too much. Creighton is a team offensively. All we hear about is, man, they can shoot the three. Well, you know the reason they get those threes? It's because Ryan Kalkbrenner sets amazing screens. He rolls to the basket, puts pressure as a rim roller, as a rim runner, someone who can also step out and score. And then defensively, he's won 2 Big East Defensive Players of the Year in a row. National Player of the Year is he should be in the short list this year, if not the front runner, along with Ryan Dunn and maybe Kevin McCullough. And I mean, 16 points, 9 rebounds. He's super efficient. He anchors one of the best teams in the country, both offensively and defensively. I don't think he's got the stats that'll typically be represented as All-Americans. Yeah. But if you look at impact and best players in college basketball, he is up there. So that's my number 8.
I love it. Leif, I didn't go with Kalkbrenner on my list. Probably should have. I have a different Creighton player later on in our conversation. My number 8 is another big man, and I was surprised that I have him where I have him, but I think it's because in my head, his votes are split with a teammate. That said, my number 8 player is Hunter Dickinson from Kansas. I think that might be low, Leif, but that's where he's at. 19.2 points, 12.7 boards, 1.8 assists per game, shooting 61.7 from the field, 55% from 3 for a top 5 Kansas team. I mean, come on, Hunter Dickinson's impact is what we expected it to be coming over from Michigan. And again, I think the reason I don't have him higher is because I've got one of his teammates hanging out in Santa's workshop on my honorable mention list.
I have Hunter Dickinson on my list as well. He's pretty high on my list, and I also have that same player on my waiting for a call-up list that you do in Kevin McCullough.
That's right.
I also have a Creighton guy, and that's number 7 for me. I've got Baylor Shireman, so I've got 2 Creighton All-Americans.
I love it.
Baylor Shireman is my number 7. If you look at a player that does everything, and and is anchoring a really good team. I would argue Kalkbrenner is the more important player to Creighton, but the player who's probably performed better at his role at this point is Baylor Shireman. Baylor Shireman shoots the lights out. He rebounds the ball. He passes the ball. And he's someone that gives you the ability to space the floor, play with size, and it allows the versatility that Creighton at times has lacked. So he averages 18.5 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, 4.7 assists. So essentially, you're getting 19, 7, and 5 from your small forward or power forward. And then you add shooting, 46% from the field, 37% from three. In all the big games, he's performed well. He's someone that at every level, you have a threat offensively. Defensively, he's someone that I think is better than he's given credit for. And honestly, I've tweeted this out, so this is nothing revelatory. But for those of you who listen to this, I do a lot with the NBA draft. I think he's a first-round draft pick.
Really?
That is in plain sight. And I know he's 23 years old, going to be 24. I think he's really a good player. And in a draft where there's a lot of players that have flaws, he's got a pretty solid game that translates well. He shoots the ball. He's big. He rebounds the ball. That's a skill set that I think will translate well, and he's a first-round pick to me and an All-American.
I love that Baylor Shireman decided to come back to college. It's good for our game, and I think it's great for him, as you said, elevating his draft status. Leif, we got our picks 7 and 6. We got to pick up the pace a little bit here to keep on moving. My number 7 is Wade Taylor Quattro from Texas A&M University, 18.6 points a game, 4.8 assists, 80% from the free throw line, 2.3 swipes a game, and 3.1 boards. This dude was my preseason pick for SEC Player of the Year. He hasn't always looked like it so far this year, but man, put up a ridiculous performance last Saturday in trying to get A&M all the way back to beat Houston. And I think we'll see him continue to pick up as we get into SEC play. Wade Taylor, my number 7 pick.
I actually forgot him. Like I went through the conferences and I had him as an honoree, but I just looked at it and I only made 12, so I guess I didn't make it super deep. But I like that pick. Wade Taylor's really, really good. My number 6 is one that I struggled to make the decision on, but I'm going to go with Jaden Ledee of San Diego State. Jaden Ledee has been unstoppable. San Diego State is not of the same caliber that they were last year, and they made the championship game run. But Jaden Ledee is playing better than he did last year. He's playing better than any player on San Diego State has since Kawhi Leonard, and maybe even better than Kawhi Leonard if you look at it statistically. 22.2 points per game, 9.9 rebounds, 57% from the field, and 42% from three. Jaden Ledee consistently is dominating the game. If this team were better, I think he would be a first-team All-American. Yeah. But they're not playing that well. And there's still time for Brian Dutcher's crew to improve, but the senior forward's really playing well, and so he's number 6 for me.
Yeah, this dude is 6th in the nation in scoring, 11th in the nation in rebounding. Leif, I divorced him from the context of San Diego State, and I probably shouldn't have, but I say that to say I actually had him 4th just ahead of David Jones, but that might be too high as we talk about it here. And maybe the reason is because my guy that I have number 6 is a guy that I maybe am a bit too low on. I thought I would have him first team, and that's Kyle Filipowski from Duke. I'm shocked that I have him 6. Again, I probably should have him a bit higher, but Flip, 18.4 points a game, has really brought up his 3-point percentage this year up to 32.4%. And I think that is part of what makes him even better than he was last year. 9.2 boards, just north of a steal, and then almost 2 blocks a game. Kyle Filipowski, one of the best players on one of the best teams in the nation. That's my number 6 pick. All right, folks, we're going to get to our 5 through 1s. We've already knocked off 2 of mine already. We'll do that in just a second. Right after I tell you that this episode of Locked On College Basketball is brought to you by Game Time. Look, we're just 3 days away from Christmas, and maybe you need a super duper last minute gift idea. Well, good news. Game Time is the place to be able to do just that. The fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time has exactly what you need. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event, and thankfully, Game Time has got you covered. They have ticket deals right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it's already going. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, folks, Leif Thulin, Isaac Schade here with you on a Friday episode, December 22nd. We're giving you our 9 Santa's reindeer, who are our college basketball All-Americans right now, leading the way. We've already gone through our 9 through 6. Now we're going to get to 5 through 1, including number 1, who will be our Rudolph, our National Player of the Year. Leif, we've already knocked off my number 5 and 4, Memphis's David Jones and San Diego State's Jaden Ledee. So why don't you give us your number 5 and number 4?
All righty. Well, my number 5 is Tristan Newton of UConn. I think he's the best player on either the best or the second best team in basketball. And that logic typically is all I need to get convinced of an All-American. He does it all on the scoreboard. One thing you're going to notice in all of mine, I tend to take players that do it on both ends of the floor and get it done, not just scoring the basketball, rebounding, and assistance. Tristan Newton might be the top guy who just does everything. And he's someone that is good for a big game, a big shot. He's scoring 16.3 points per game, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 47% from the field, 35% from 3. And like I said, he is anchoring what I think is either the best or the second best team in basketball. That's my number 5, and then my number 4.
Let me hop in, Leif. Let me hop in real quick because Tristan Newton was my number 3. I'm right there with you, dude. He was my pick for Big East Player of the Year in the preseason, and he's living up to that. You know, we wondered what's UConn going to do with all these dudes they've lost to the draft, Sanogo and Jackson and all these guys. Well, Tristan Newton has stepped up in a major way. Obviously, there's other guys that are making UConn what they are, Cam Spencer and everyone else. But it's Tristan Newton elevating his game yet again that for me does it. And your logic is exactly my logic. The best player on a top 2 team in the sport that's doing it on both ends. How could you not have him in your top 5 right now? You do. I have him at 3 as well. And so, Leif, sorry to interrupt, but just wanted to get that in. Why don't you give us your number 4?
That was a great call on your part because I think everyone would have gone with Kolek. And that's not necessarily a bad take
not
either.
This guy. Get out of here.
Right. And it'll be close. That'll come down to the wire between Kolek and Newton. I've got Tyson Walker at number 4 for me.
Nice.
I think despite Michigan State's struggles, he has been sensational. And if they had started the way that we anticipated they would, or even a game or two better, he might be in the National Player of the Year conversation behind, who's probably going to be the obvious answer.
I have no idea, Leif. Who might that?
He's a tall guy. Like he's not diminutive in stature. That's the hint I'll give you. Well, Tyson Walker is scoring over 20 a game, and he's shooting the lights out. And now, if you were to look at the games that they've won against teams, or the games that they've played against teams that are really good, against Arizona, he was very good. Against Duke, very good. Like against James Madison, even, he was very good. And then recently, he lit up Baylor for 25 on perfect shooting from 3. So I'm not holding team success against Tyson Walker because I think Michigan State without Tyson Walker would be in dire straits. And I think they're going to right the ship and get a lot better. And Tyson Walker will be a first-team All-Big Ten guy, and I think he'll be an All-American.
I have Tyson Walker on my honorable mention list, hanging out in Santa's workshop. But yeah, as Michigan State improves, I wouldn't be surprised if he would slide up into my top 9 as well. Well, Leif, you keep knocking mine off. So since we've already hit my number 3, you keep going, my man. Who do you have at 3rd?
All righty. Well, I've got Tyler Kolek at number 3. And the reason I have him ahead of Tristan Newton is not necessarily a definitive, hey, I think he's better. It's because I have the utmost confidence of the sustainability of Kyler Kolek. Kolek is going to continue to play well, no matter the defense you play against, no matter the competition he plays against, no matter the league. And I know they recently lost to Providence. I don't have much of a qualm with that. I think Providence is a good team.
Yes.
Kolek is going to be a double-double threat, maybe even a triple-double threat all the time. And I think Marquette is on a similar footing to Tristan Newton's UConn. UConn, in my opinion, better, but Marquette is more reliant on Kolek's success than UConn is on Newton's. And maybe that's like saying, oh, they're not as good a team. And that's probably the case. But I think if you take Kolek off of Marquette, this team really loses something more than you would lose in Tristan Newton. I believe in the value of a player when starring on a certain team. And even against Providence recently, Kolek scored 21 points. Yeah, and 9 rebounds and 5 assists. So right. I really like Tyler Kolek. I still think he might have the inside track to the Big East Player of the Year, but Tristan Newton's been awesome, and I kind of hope he wins it.
That might be my favorite conference player of the year race, because I think you're right. It's got to be those two dudes. And I get, well, maybe
Kalkbrenner and Shireman can have an impact.
That's what I was going to say. And where I think that might change is I wouldn't be surprised if those Creighton guys split some of the vote. Although, some of it, I'm curious to see if Iguodaro gets any of the vote as well. But we'll watch for that. I love the Kolek call. Backing up his Big East Player of the Year win from last year with another great season. All right, Lee, finally, somebody that you haven't knocked off my list yet. My number 2, and I think this one is a surprise, not only for all of you, but for me, is PJ Hall from Clemson is my number 2 player. This dude right now, legitimately, it's probably between like he and Kyle Filipowski and somebody that's on my honorable mention list for ACC Player of the Year right now. 20.2 points a game, 7.1 boards, 2.5 assists, 2.4 blocks, 1.1 steals, shooting 37% from 3, 76.1 from the free throw line, which is, I'll take that from a big man. As you said earlier, Leif, you're looking at guys who are doing it on both ends. And I think that PJ Hall is absolutely a massive part of what is making Clemson as good as they are right now. Their lone loss to date was that 2-point loss at Memphis, which after what Memphis did to Virginia, as we talked about earlier, that Clemson loss looks all the better right now. And so Clemson is rolling. They are a legit team in my eyes, a legit threat to win the ACC regular season. And it's in large, if not critical part, due to PJ Hall's efforts. And if you've been keeping track on Clemson, he's been doing this all along. It's just now that the nation is starting to take attention.
That's a really good one. I actually don't have PJ Hall on my top 9. I've got him in the honorable mentions, but even then I thought it was almost an afterthought because I'm so accustomed to what PJ Hall's done. Like it doesn't feel like he's taken that much of a leap. It's just Clemson's supporting cast has gotten better. I think I mentioned it to Andy last week that I think Clemson may win the ACC. So if that's the case, I think he may well get the All-American. And I, like you mentioned, Filipowski. I didn't answer that. I actually didn't have Filipowski in my top 9. I feel like a lot of his numbers have been inflated against poor teams, and when Duke has played the good teams, they haven't looked particularly great. No. And so we'll see with a couple of big games coming up. My number 2, you've mentioned, it's Hunter Dickinson. I don't think he's necessarily the second best player in terms of impact in college basketball, but if you look at his statistics and what team he's on, it's hard to leave him off.
Yep.
He is scoring at will. He's dominating the glass as you anticipated. He's creating offense for his teammates via assists. Defensively, he's been adequate. I wouldn't say he's good, but he provides a big body on the interior. And Kansas is, as they always are, top 5 team in the country. I have my qualms with Kansas. I don't think they're that great, but they win. They win, and he is their most vital player. And the player that we alluded to earlier, Kevin McCullough, I thought about putting him in here, but I just didn't think that 2 of them on Kansas needed that job. And then number 1, I think we've got the same guy.
Let's say it together on the count of 3, Leif. 1, 2, 3. Zach Edey. Yeah, exactly. Talk about why, though.
Well, Purdue at this point is the best team in basketball. That said, I think UConn's got a claim for it. Zach Edey has been better than he was last year, and my goodness, was he dominant last year. Zach Edey is scoring. He's defending. I think he's a better defender than he was last year. I think he's scoring just as efficiently and is helping his team more. He's creating for his team, and his team is more capable of helping him, and that's what's elevating Purdue to the level that they are, getting that national respect. This is the third straight year Purdue's reached number one, but this year feels different. For the first time, no one's saying, "Oh, they don't have the players to win this." Whereas the year with Ivy, they looked a little too young. They looked shell-shocked. Last year, I think I was among the very first who said I will not bet on them to win even more than a game in the tournament. So I bet on them to beat Farley Dickinson, and then they didn't. But I had Memphis beating them. I had FAU beating any variation they were losing. This year, I'm hard-pressed to think of any team that can. I think UConn is the team. 24.5 points, 11 rebounds, an assist and a half, 62% from the field. He's making free throws. He's making winning plays, blocking shots,
2.5 blocks. Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. And Purdue is the best team in the country at this point in terms of what they've done. And we've talked about team success being a critical factor. Well, there you have it. That's the driving force behind the number one team in the nation.
You know, it's so funny, Leif, because typically when we think of players leading a lot of the national stats, it's guys on mid or low major teams. But Zach Edey, second in the nation in scoring, 8th in the nation in rebounds, tied for 12th in the nation in blocks, leading the nation in win shares and PER at collegebasketballreference.com or whatever. And I mean, this dude is just, it's a no-brainer, as no-brainer as you can get it right now. In fact, we're going to do our FanDuel read here in just a minute, and the Wooden Award odds are just stupid in his favor right now. So we are going to get to our honorable mentions. We got to kind of fly through those names, Leif. The guys that are hanging out in Santa's workshop, waiting to be called up to active duty. We'll get to that in just a second. Right after I tell you that this episode of Locked On College Basketball is brought to you by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers Stay Hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and they have a wide range of betting options like spreads, player props, over-unders, and things like the Wooden Award odds that I just referenced. Zach Edey, minus 200. Next on that list is Hunter Dickinson at plus 370, and then Kyle Filipowski at plus 2,600. That's how ridiculously favored Zach Edey is. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get in on that action or NFL action this season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, folks, we're going to talk about our honorable mentions, the reindeer hanging out at Santa's workshop waiting. We're going to kind of fly through this and then each highlight one of our remaining players. So, Leif, who are the guys left on your list?
I've got Dalton Knecht, TJ Shannon, RJ Davis, Kevin McCullough, Kyle Filipowski, and I had one other one that you mentioned, and it's eluding my mind right now. But the one I want to talk about in my most narrow omission was Dalton Knecht. Dalton Knecht is leading a team in Tennessee that has been awesome defensively for years, has really struggled to score the ball, and he's become that guy. Up until his last two games, he's scoring about 20 points per game. He struggled scoring just 9 points in those two. I think he's dealing with an injury, but Dalton Knecht is making Tennessee a feasible national championship contender, which they were defensively, but not offensively. And I think that is someone that will warrant National Player of the Year, or SEC Player of the Year, and national talk about being an All-American should Tennessee win the SEC.
Oh man, and I love that it's like a transfer up situation. You know, we so often wonder, like, is it going to translate from Northern Colorado to Tennessee? And boy, has it. I love it. He's one of my favorite players in all of college basketball this year. Leif, my list included several of the same as you: Dalton Knecht, RJ Davis from North Carolina, LJ Cryer going from Baylor to Houston, KJ Simpson at Colorado, Joel Soriano at St. John's, Taman Lipsey at Iowa State, and a third Creighton player, one who I love that's initiating a lot of their offense, Trey Alexander. Leif, I want to go with LJ Cryer, kind of for similar reasons that you did with Dalton Knecht. Houston, we know because of their defense. LJ Cryer comes over from Baylor, is a known offensive dude, and I think in a lot of ways, because of what he is capable of doing on the offensive side of the ball, and especially now, part of why I want to highlight him is that unfortunately Terrence Arsenault has gone down seemingly for the season for Houston, and I think that's going to make LJ Cryer all the more important and valuable for Kelvin Sampson's team. And so I just think that Houston, another one of those tip-top teams in the nation, that's only going to be more highlighted of what LJ Cryer is able to do. Man, Leif, this is a fun show, a great conversation. I love your list. So fun to talk about. Again, folks, we'd love to hear where you think we went right and wrong. We'd love to hear your list and who you would have on it. Hope you have a great weekend leading up to Christmas. We're going to be back with shows all next week, so make sure you tune in for that. Maybe, again, escape your family if you need to. Thanks for making Locked On College Basketball your first listen or watch to get your college basketball content every day. We'd love it if you would subscribe to the show, rate and review, smash the like button if you're watching, and that'll be great to be able to do. Again, I want to say, as always, apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wildcats, and until Monday.